How's it going, everyone? Welcome to my devlog. So I've been working on this game for a few months now, and I've gotten a lot of motivation and inspiration by watching other developers share their progress on YouTube and Twitch and things like that. So I figured I'd join the party and maybe it'll have a similar effect for someone else. Now, since I've been working on it for a while now, I've got a bit of a backlog of topics to discuss. So instead of making one enormous video where I cover everything, I figure I'll trickle them out over time. And for this first one, I'll just start with a general overview of the core gameplay and then talk a bit about why I'm making this particular game and where I'm planning to take it and all that good stuff. Alright, so let's get into it. So I'll start off with a game against the AI. Oh, and just a heads up, this tower model here is the only model that's actually been made for this game, and everything else is just placeholders I chucked in there. Alright, let's go. So this is the game. So it's 1 versus 1 tower defense game. If you don't know what that means, that's fine, I'll explain it. So it's the blue player versus the red player, and I'm currently playing as the blue player. So our enemy, the red player, is sending attackers in, which are just red cubes. So these red cubes will get spawned at this position here, and then they'll make their way to our base, this blue structure here. And they'll go along this path here, which is kind of the shortest path. Yeah, close enough. And every time they get there, this number here next to the shield will tick down by 1. And once it reaches 0, we lose. Now, say we don't want to lose. We can defend ourselves by placing towers, like this. And these towers have a couple of effects. The first is they shoot the attackers, and if they get shot enough times, they'll be destroyed. And the other impact is they will change the path that the attackers take to get to your tower. So they always try to take the shortest path, but since you are kind of placing these in the way, it'll force them to reroute around a different way. And the idea is you make some convoluted path that makes them take a very long time to get to your base. That was not a very good way to do it. Anyway, maybe it's alright. So you use this to make it so they take ages to get to your base, and they can take a lot of hits over the time, bolstering your defenses. Now, if we want to attack, we can use this subtle button down here, send attacker, and that costs 25 of our resource, which are these purple cubes. I'll explain in a minute. And so we click that a few times, we get some blue cubes to go attack the red base, and then it's all the same on the other side. So it's completely symmetrical, so everything works the same in both directions. I should say we build our towers on this grid here, so we can build them in any of these spots except the ones that are covered by these rocks. And these rocks, the positions of these rocks, are randomly generated every game, and it's the same for both players. So it's rotational symmetry. So if you use this as like a pivot point and then flip it around, the rocks and the whole layout will be the same for both players. Now the resource, these purple cubes, which we looked at before. So this purple water is the resource in the game. And we collect that over time by this structure. So the structure that we're defending is actually a refinery. So the theme behind it is it sucks up this purple water and then does its processing and whatever, and then turns it into this usable currency. So we get that every 10 seconds from our refinery kind of chomping away at it or doing whatever it does. And we spend it by building towers, which cost 50 apiece, or 25 for the attackers, a bit more for the upgrades. And we can increase our income by sending attackers, which probably sounds pretty strange. Like, why would sending attackers mean we get more money from our refinery? And the theme behind it is So since this purple water is our resource and it's processed by this thing to make it usable, there's going to be, it's not rendered in the game yet, but there's going to be this kind of, I don't know what to call it, corruption or blight or whatever, some stuff, some like volatile substance that's sitting along the edge of this pool, and it kind of leaches into the waterway. So it means your refinery can't process it as efficiently, and so it doesn't get as much income every time. And every time you send an attacker, the idea is the spawn point will harvest this corruption. Owned. The spawn point will harvest this corruption and use that as part of the attacker. So the attacker will kind of be like a smart bomb, which is carrying around this corruption with it and trying to take it to the enemy's base to damage them. And so since every time we send an attacker, it's going to harvest the stuff, there'll be less of it leaching into the flow, and our refinery will work more efficiently. Yeah, that is it for the game. So why am I doing this at all? Slideshow time. So some of my favorite games, got Magic the Gathering, StarCraft and StarCraft 2, and Go. So I like all of these games, and I've put a decent number of hours into each of them, but there are certain aspects of them which I'm not always that fond of. So for Magic the Gathering, there's a lot of variance. Like an individual game is very influenced by luck, like the draw that you get and the draw that your opponent gets, and it can be pretty frustrating, or at least I find it frustrating when I lose due to bad draws. And it can also be kind of disheartening, like if you're looking at the game competitively and like, should I invest a bunch of time into getting good at this? But then you think, I only actually have that much impact on my win percentage, and luck is going to be a huge factor. So I didn't like that too much about Magic. For StarCraft, it doesn't really have that problem. Like the better player pretty much, generally wins. There is a bit of luck, but the issue I have with that is a lot of anxiety. Like I find it quite intimidating, particularly the rank ladder. Like it's very hard to click that queue up button. I think it's maybe due to not being able to see what your opponent can do, and there's so many possibilities. Just, I don't know, it gets me. And then there's Go. So if you're not familiar with Go, the third game there, it's a very old Chinese board game with a very simple rule set, which kind of leads to a very complex game. You can kind of think of it as analogous to chess for these purposes. But the thing I don't like so much about that is it's not very exciting, and it's kind of slow paced. And I'm not saying like these things are fundamental flaws with these games. Like I'm sure some people do like the high variance and the fluctuations, and maybe want a slow paced game. It's just not always what I'm personally looking for, is all I'm saying. So what am I going to do about it? Well, you may have guessed, I'm going to make a competitive 1v1 tower defense game. And so I've got a few pillars or guiding principles, whatever you want to call it, for making this game. And the first one is the better player wins. So I don't want luck to be a deciding factor or a factor at all. So there will still be some randomness, like the layout of the rocks on the defense area. That's random, but it's the same for both players, and it's done right at the start before you've made any decisions. So it's not like it could suddenly the rocks turn out a certain way and it screws you over or something like that. So even playing field there. And the next one is you can't pay for an advantage. So you can't buy a bunch of gems to get some power-ups or some sparkle points to unlock certain towers or anything like that. So regardless of investment, you'll be on a level playing field with everyone else. And I'm also taking some steps to reduce the impact of latency or the quality of your connection on the outcome of the game. There's only so much that can be done here, but I'm doing what I can to reduce the impact there. So the next pillar is victory by decision making. So there will be some mechanical skill to the game just due to the pace, but the majority of it, the core of it, is going to be making good quality decisions quickly. Next pillar is deep gameplay. I'm really hoping this can be a game that people want to play for thousands of hours and can keep learning stuff and keep enjoying it. And I want to do this while not just piling on the complexity, which is one way to do it, but I really like the elegance of games like Go, or even Conway's Game of Life, where you have quite simple rule sets that result in very complex gameplay. So it'll be a challenge for sure, but I think it'll be really cool if I could pull that off. And the final pillar is create awe, which seems kind of cheesy, but I think it has a lot of potential. And there's various dimensions I'm hoping to do this in. So one is like the visuals. So in the demo, I put quite a decent amount of effort into the rendering of that menu scene, but also like other areas like audio, and also facilitating awesome gameplay. So make sure the game mechanics are such that players can do awesome things, which they can share with their friends, or maybe you see like your opponent do something awesome. I want to make sure to allow for that. All right, that's all I've got. Thanks for stopping by, and I will see you. Subscribe, like, show it to your cat, do whatever you want. All right, see you.